for taking some time to be with us. One of the things that I've noticed that we run into in the nursery is there is noise. We have low ceilings, and so it can get loud pretty quickly. So what are your top tips on bringing noise down and kind of redirecting energy or anything in that direction?
I'm going to refer to you.
Okay. Okay, I did write a couple of points down there. I would say don't get too many toys out at once. Like have a specific, just 2 or 3 items. Like you could have Lego block. Like today, we just did Lego blocks and then a few other toys in one area. Sometimes when you have too many toys out at one time, then it can make it noisier. And then having different play areas. You know, having things separated, which you do. We've done that really well. You've done that really well in the nursery. And then, you know, like just to alternate the toys and not have too many out at once is what I would say.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would say modeling. So you can start talking to them in a whisper, and they actually have to quiet their voices to hear what you're saying, especially if your face is really expressive. So it helps them to kind of redirect and refocus and be like, oh wait, what are you saying? So they end up stopping what they're doing to kind of manage the noise. And then you can be like, okay, talk as quiet as a mouse, then make it a game.
You can also do that, like have them all sit down, say crisscross applesauce, hands in your lap, and then kind of quiet it, and then, okay, we're going to play again, and then maybe talk to them about keeping the noise down.
Yeah.
So. Well, now little bitty tiny ones you can't, they're crawling around obviously, but the older ones, they can understand that. So.
Okay, and guys, anytime during this, if you think of a question, just shout out. So I won't my back to you right now, but just.
Are we soft? Yeah. Do we need to speak louder? Okay.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
So like I mentioned, if there's a kid that's having trouble sharing, what is, what you have experienced as a real effective way to communicate what the concept
right.
to them?
You want to go? Keep looking at me.
I keep looking because I'm not the expert.
I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert. Okay, so I did. Studies show that children between the ages of 2 and 7 start to develop the understanding that other people have a point of view. But before that, they have no idea that somebody else has their point of view, and so they don't really know how to share. But by the time they're 2, they can start to learn, somebody else thinks differently than I do. So one of the things, if you're with a child and they're not wanting to share, you can say, well, it's Sally's turn now, and then in a minute you're going to get a turn. And just, have that as something you can say to a child. Also, if a child's having a really hard time sharing or maybe pushing or hitting, you can have someone go and just be with that child and start an interactive game with them individually, but then talk to them about sharing. Yeah. Like, well, it was Sally's turn, and then we'll have a turn next, and kind of model that, like what you were saying about modeling.
Yeah. Yes, that's good. I've been told before not to take away a toy that 2 children are fighting over. And so I've tried to not do that. Sometimes I'll bring in another toy and kind of redirect them to something else. I think redirection is something that's really helpful for kids that age because they're like, oh, okay, they're very much like Squirrel. So when you kind of redirect their focus, it helps them. So you but you're not getting them to do what they want to do. You're getting them to do something new and make whatever you're doing fun. So like the other point, just like making sure your face is expressive, that you're kind of drawing them in, so it helps them to kind of, get their mind off of the toy that they so want, and then redirect them to something else. Yeah, or doing something with them, because a lot of kids just want you to spend time with them.
Yes.
So if you say, hey, do you want to read a book with me, and just like have them sit in your lap, some kids they come and they kind of need that one-on-one love, and we're giving them that kind of love when they come in. So
one thing that's great, you always have extra volunteers, and so like today, I was in the nursery and Ainsley was in there, and she immediately sat down and was at the table with Emma and Daniel and played with them for a long time. But then she left the table and they continued on that vein of playing together without fighting, without arguing. So it was great. It's good to have extra volunteers to to help with things like that.
But like you said earlier, you can set the tone and then
Right.
you can continue in that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Let's talk about when there's a child that's fussy for whatever reason. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they are not used to being in a nursery setting. What type of boundaries do you think there needs to be for engaging that child? And then when do you draw the line and say, we need to call mom and dad again?
I feel like I answer every question.
Okay, I would say redirection, change and diffuse the situation. So just also a child they could be nervous, they could be fearful, they could be tired. But so if you put a child with a volunteer and they just kind of hang out with that kid for a while, especially if they're having a really hard time.
That usually works. Yeah.
And that really helps a lot. To me, if they've been crying, if you've tried everything you can do, you've tried different toys, you've tried, consoling them, holding them, and they're still not being consoled, then I would definitely call the parent. Because you don't want a child to be in that high stress anxiety, and because they're going to associate nursery with that every time they come back.
It affects the other kids.
Right,
in the nursery
it
as
does.
well.
Yeah, one of them gets going, and then somebody else starts to cry. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes those tired kids, sometimes there's emotional needs that need to be met. So either coming in with a hug or a word of encouragement, or just letting them know, I'm sorry you're frustrated, or I'm sorry you're tired. Sometimes they just need to take that breath and feel good. And then I try to meet physical needs, because it could be tired, maybe they just need a hug to feel better, thirsty or hungry. So if you meet a physical need, sometimes it kind of helps the child to feel better, or doing that kind of thing. I think calling a parent, because sometimes I know when I'm fussy or I'm upset, I know I need to eat, but also kids start to hit because they don't have control of their bodies yet. They're just kind of showing with their bodies what they're feeling. So I think for me, when it starts to get to hitting, I like Anne Marie's thing of when you realize you can't console them. But if there's any type of physical thing, maybe you don't have to get the parents right away, but at least letting the parent know, giving them a first warning, second warning, if it's a continued behavior, and then we can get more parent involvement. And then you can ask the parent, hey, what do you do at home when they hit? Or what is something we can partner with you with, so parents don't feel so defeated, because I think for parents they're like, oh man, I got the bad kid, and they feel bad.
Yeah.
So just letting parents know, it's okay, we're going to work together, and they feel partnered with, they feel supported, and they're more likely to invest more into what we do and buy in. So, yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions from just that bit of discussion? Okay. Is there anything else you guys wanted to cover?
With distracting kids, sometimes bubbles help, because it just kind of gets the whole room to be focused, not on what's right there, but to kind of look up and have fun, so that kind of helps too. Any type of songs you could sing, if you can think of a song,
music is great.
or worship, or that you could sing to them, they'll stop when you sing worship, especially in a transition. That helps too. When you sing in transition, it kind of helps them to get along and go with the flow.
Bringing out different toys is great. Like the tunnel thing that's in the nursery, having that for a 15-minute period, and then putting it up and then getting something else out. That's a great way to, kind of just different transitions, or okay, it's time to read now, or let's get some books out and read, or let's, that's helpful.
Kind of paces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or it's coloring time, or whatever,
Yeah. And speaking life over kids when they're doing something, speak the opposite. Be like, oh, I know you could be a good friend. Could you share, could you be a friend and play with so-and-so? So kind of speaking life over them versus hey, no, don't do that. Give them some positive redirection to help them. Yeah.
Flip it to truth.
Yeah, flip it to truth and what
Right.
God says about them. But what's beautiful is we're in a setting where we can invite heaven. So when you feel frustrated, or you feel like, man, I don't know how to console this kid, it's like, God, can you please just bring angels into this room? And, God, what do you say about this child? What do you want me to speak over them or pray over them? And that's a part of what we get to do here, is invite heaven into the nursery, and that's a beautiful thing.
Amen. Just really just love on them and
Yeah.
get down on the floor with them and let them sit in your lap, and
Yeah.
you know they respond to that. So
Yeah, that's true.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.